Hello everyone, this is Jóhann from Flowcore. Today we'll be discussing data cores, how they work, how you create one, as well as how you load data into a data core. Now, a data core is specifically a bucket of unstructured data. So you can send in whatever data you want, any data set. It doesn't have to be defined beforehand. You can just send all of it in one big bulk. And then the idea is that since you have all this data already in your data core, you can decide later what specific pieces you want. So for example, this is great for systems where you have loads of data, but you're not entirely sure yet what you need. So instead you just take all of it and then you can decide later on what you want to keep. How you pick and choose what data you want, we'll get to later. But for now, just understand that data cores is the entry point for Flowcore. So any data that you send in is the data you will be utilizing within the Flowcore platform, as well as sending it out into external sources, which we'll all cover later. So I think just to get the ball rolling, I think we should just start by creating a data core and get the data pushed inside so we can get a better feel for how it works. If we start by going into our organization, so we'll just pick this one. You can see that you can create data cores. Now, if I just create one for now, we'll call it the best weather data. Just stick with this concept of that we have antennas around or sensors that can pick up weather data like IoT devices, and that they send this data to a data core that we can then manipulate later on. So we'll just say this is for a YouTube tutorial, and then we'll just say create. Now notice down here that since I have a free plan, I only get the public data cores. But if I wanted to have like more private data, so for example, something sensitive to say your company, then you'll have to upgrade to a pro or higher. For now, we'll just create a public one. For example, public data would be ideal for example, weather data or data that you would want to be accessible to other people that use Flowcore so they can utilize your data as well. So for now, we'll create that one. There we go, the best weather data. And then we'll enter that data core where we'll have to essentially create groups so that we can organize the data slightly. So the idea is that you can imagine it's kind of like you have a drawer and then you have these little cartons inside the drawers. So you can organize the data slightly, but the specific schema of the data, the structure of the data itself is completely just free and there's no restrictions on it. Just to demonstrate, we'll set up a scenario where we have, say, the North Pole. So say we had loads of weather data in various different parts of the world. We could decide that, all right, one of them is on the North Pole. And then we'll say that we had two antennas. One would be at Santa's workshop. And the other would be at the reindeer garage. And we'll create that. So essentially, as you can see now, I've created the main group, the grouping, and then I have little subgroups underneath. Now, bear in mind that the platform is still under development, so things could change in the future. So the naming of things could change, but in general, this is the concept that you have to work with. So let's just create the flow types. Here we go. So now you can see I created a group called North Pole, and then we have two event types called Santa's Workshop and a Reindeer Garage. Now, the next step would be to push data into these event types. So let us start by going into ingestion channels. This is how you essentially send data into a data core. So as you can see currently, it's structured to show what's the next step essentially. So we created the data cores. Now we have to ingest data into that data core. Now currently we only support webhooks, but MQTT as well as just bring your own stuff will be coming later. So for this tutorial, we'll stick with webhooks since that's also the simplest one. So that would also be like these two will get their own separate videos. So when we press integrate, we're given the option of picking what organizations we're interested in. So essentially we're diving into looking up for the event type that we just created. So we pick the Flowcore YouTube organization. Then we pick the data core, which is the one we just created. And then we'll pick the North Pole. And then we'll pick Santa's Workshop. Now, as you can see down here, it generated a URL. So essentially it's a webhook that we can call. So just consider this, if you don't know what a webhook is, just consider this to be a URL in the sense that you can call, that you would have to send data to. But as you can see, we're missing one part, which is the API key, which means we have to create this API key first. So before we get to ingest anything, we have to first go into our settings, user settings, scroll to the bottom, and then there are API keys right here. So the idea is that just for authentication reasons, we have to define an API key. So we can call this one the weather API key. It doesn't really matter. This is just the naming here is just so you know what it is. So we'll just create this API key right here, and it will generate an API key as shown here. We'll press the copy to clipboard. Now again, things could potentially change in the future, but we'll cover that once that happens. But in the general sense, it will be this sort of flow. We've copied that. As you can see, it's generated here. So one benefit of using these API keys is that, say you had a team plan where you gave someone an API key to utilize, but then you decided later, no, you know what, you should revoke his ability to communicate with our data core. Then you can simply go in, press X, and then delete it, and it'll go away. And then that will automatically lose access to your data core. Go back to integrating. We'll just paste this one in straight away. As you can see, now it's there. And then we'll go through the same process that we did before. Weather data, North Pole, Santa's workshop. So now we've generated this URL that we can call now. So we'll just have to use some method of doing something called a post call. So for my demonstration, I'll just use the application called Insomnia. Here we go. We'll just create there we go. We'll just pick that one. It's fine. And then we'll create a new post request. So HTTP request, we'll set it to post. We'll paste in the URL we just created. And we'll go and pick JSON, because currently the webhooks support the JSON format. So that's something we have to stick with. So let's see. I have some data right here. I'm just going to type in real quick. So say this weather station would send in, let's say it would send in the temperature in degrees, and then it would send in the wind speed in meters per second, which is 3.0, and then it would send the wind direction, which is west in this case. There we go. So if we hop over to data core, the data core we created, we'll see this is Santa's workshop, and then we decide let's just send some data over. There we go. It said it was created. Then we hop over, and there you go. Data immediately pops in here. So we could, for example, change it slightly. We could say, hey, this is 18 now and 3.2. Say, like, if it pinged every hour or every minute, whatever, we'll send it again. And there you go. Now it came back in. So as you can see, the whole structure of the data is defined by the data you send in. So it is completely schemaless. So we could say change this one to east now and set this one to 18.2, sorry, in 5. Send that in. And there you go. And again, if we say we wanted to send data to the, the reindeer garage, we'll just quickly hop in here, say reindeer garage, send that in. And now we have data here as well. So as you can see, the URL it's just purely generated. So that's why I could go in here and just slightly modify it, because I know what this event type is called. So that is essentially it. We've demonstrated how you create a data core, how you set up an ingestion channel so you can send data easily into the data core, and then finally how to actually send whatever data you feel like into this data core. Now, if any of this was confusing, for example, now that I was using Insomnia here, you're welcome to comment, and then we can always set up different scenarios for you to demonstrate various different platforms such as Postman, for example. But for now, well, I think we'll just say this was it. And then in the next video, we'll be creating read models which connect to external sources so that we can eventually get the data from the data core. So this data that we just saw right here in Santa's workshop and the reindeer garage, we'll get that data into a database of our choosing as well. So for now, I'll say thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.